Welcome back. Today we're going to be continuing on with our Swift certification practice app so we can learn how to do different things to understand how to get ready to use UIViewController based applications. This time we're going to make it so we can click on the button, have it go instead of from just changing the image, we're going to click on a button and have it go to a different screen. So we're going to continue using our existing app and have it so it has more functionality. The first thing we need to do is we need to make a new file so we can open it because each individual scene inside your app needs its own ViewController file. So we're going to make a new file for that. So I'm going to right click on my project, I'm going to go down to New File. And it's going to be a Cocoa Touch class is the type right here. I'm going to hit Next. And it's going to be called Other ViewController, which is a subclass of ViewController. I know, creative naming, that's easy, but it works. Okay, and hit Next. It's going to be saved right here inside my project. Wonderful. Hit Create. And so I've got that brand new ViewController. Again, I like to fix my squig so it looks a little bit nicer. My view did load right here. Boom. Fix that. I'm going to go over here and add the void as the return type for that because that method is a void type. It just is able to skip that because that's the one of the lovely functionalities of Swift, but I like it in there so I know what I'm doing with that. And so my override func view did load, this says what's to happen when I'm actually on that screen to have that be there. So now I've got the code for it. I'm going to hit save so my code is ready. I'm going to go make a reference to it in my storyboard. So I'm going to main.storyboard. I'm going to go over here. I'm just going to move this screen just a little bit over. So just like that. I'm going to click the plus sign like I've been doing for adding little components and write in UI view. And I have a ViewController right here, so I'm going to grab my ViewController, I'm going to drag it out over here just to the right. Boom, it's got a brand new thing. So it's a brand new ViewController. As you can see right here, it's just a ViewController scene. There's nothing listed for it, unlike the Cactus ViewController. And so I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to get so it's selected. So I have that one selected right here. I'm going to go back to its Identity Inspector, Alt-Command-4. And instead of having a default class of UIViewController, I'm going to use the drop-down menu, and I'm going to type in Other and start typing. And look, there's my other ViewController. Now it's linked to it. And so now we have this right here. One of the things I like to do is make sure that I'm in this ViewController. I want to make sure that I've got the right screen on screen. So just to make sure I've got this ready. So I'm going to go click on this right here on the blank area. I'm going to go to my attributes right here. I'm going to give the background color, instead of a white background, ooh, nice little purple color. Purple's a great color for a background, and save that right there. Now, if I run my app right now, I click my button, nothing's going to happen. It's just going to do my regular button changes where it changes the image on there. There's no way to talk back and forth between it. But we're going to make it so we can have that happen. So I click on my button and it changes. Great, wonderful stuff. But I want to make it so when I click on a new button over here, it's going to go to this other screen, and then I can dismiss it and come back. So let's go ahead and make that happen. So first things first, we're going to make another button. So I'm going to click on my button right here, and I'm going to type in button again. So my add button, I'm going to add that button. Where did it go? There it is. I'm going to put it right here below this. And to make sure the button is different, instead of being button, I'm going to go to other screen. Click for other screen. There we go. And command save right there. And I'll give this one button instead of a name. It's like change picture. There we go. Save that. So that looks a little bit nicer. Rerun my app again. Launch it one more time. I've got my lovely launch screen. I've got my change picture. It still works just fine even though I changed the text of it. My click for other screen though doesn't do anything. So I have to add functionality to make that happen. So in order to make that happen, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drag a reference from that to this other screen. So we'll go over here on this other screen and we'll put a label on here. And we'll put a label saying you made it. And we've got you made it. And we'll make it so it's nice and very big. Boom, it's centered. Click on my font size. Instead of font, let's there we go, 30, and recenter that so it looks nice. Boom, that blue line saying it's centered right there, that quick little way to make sure that's happy. And hit save on that. So we've got that right there. And so now that I have this there, I want to make it so I can go to this other screen and then come back to it. So I'll have to make a button so it'll come back as well. So I'm going to click on this screen right here and make a button to go back. And I'm going to grab that over here and drag it to this. And we'll change the text of this to go back home. Go back to Cactus. Boom. Have my font on here instead of being the default title on that. The foreground of my font, let's have this be a nice red color. Nah, pink's too not good. We'll do black. Black looks good. Yeah, there we go. Black. So go back to Cactus, so we have it right there. So I've got that image. So I've got my text on there. I've got a button with that. And so I need to make it so I have a reference so I can do this to have that happen. And so again, remember, in order to make links between code and storyboard, I have to use the assistant editor to make that happen. So I'm going to close off my inspector pane because I've linked that to the components. I'm going to click on my first one right here. I'm going to open up my inspector pane. I'm going to open up my assistant editor. So I go to editor and I go down to assistant right here. Boom, it brings it up right here. And so I have my Cactus View Controller is what I have selected right now with this. And so it automatically goes to Cactus View Controller. When I click on Other View Controller, it automatically goes to that other screen. Great stuff. So I've got this one right here. I've already got my Cactus click right here. So right click and drag. I'm going to insert another action. And this is going to be Change Screen as the action name. And again, it's from a button. So that's who I'm sending it. And I hit Connect. Boom, fix that down. I'm going to go ahead and fix my squiggles and add the return type void to my method for this because I like it so it looks nicer. And so right now when I click it, I have an action link that does absolutely nothing, which is okay. But I have a way that I can reference this. Okay. So I've got my button right here. I've got my assistant editor open. No. Zoop. So I want to link this button right here to go back to Cactus. So I'm going to click on this button right here so it's highlighted. As you can see, when I click on this screen, it automatically goes to the appropriate view controller on that list. And I'm going to drag a IB outlet over here. So I'm going to drag a reference and IBAction to this. I'm going to go over here below my view to load. It's going to action. I'm going to call this dismiss because that's what I'm telling it to do. And the type is going to be the lovely button because that's what I'm working with. I'm going to choose connect. I click on that connect button right here, and again, I add my return type void on this just because I want to explicitly call it that that is a void method, even though Swift is okay with that. I like knowing that it's there right there. And I'm going to tell this view that I want this view to dismiss itself. So when I get to this screen, when I click that button, I want it to dismiss itself and go back to what it called it. So I'm going to do self dot, which talks about the current object. I'm going to say to dismiss, and the animated parameter is going to be set to be true. And the completion operator is set to nil. So I'm not sending any, not sending a closure to that. So I'm just sending nil as a completion handler to that. So I've got that sent. So that's made it so when I click that button, it's going to dismiss itself. But now I need to make it so I can go to this other screen. So that's where I need to add the segue to that. So I click back on my storyboard and make it bring back up here. And I bring it, so on this one, instead of going from clicking from here to the assistant editor, I'm going to control click from here over to this other screen. So as you can see, it highlights that right there, and boom, it brings up the options to add a segue. We've got a lot of different options. I'm just going to choose the idea right here for show. It's the default option. It's the easiest one to work with. So I click on that, and I have that segue right here. So I've got this click to show screen. It has this cute little line that now connects this. It has a back arrow, so it automatically can support going back when I click on it. And so now they've got that segue made. I've got this segue right here. And that segue is linked to this button you can see right here. So I click on it, it highlights it right there. I'm going to go ahead and run my app. I've got my splash screen. My app loads. I can change my picture still because I haven't changed anything over that. I click on my show, click on other screen. I made it. Yes. I can go back to my cactus and it brings me right back to where I was. And I can still go back and change all my screens. I'm on purple right now, pink. Click to change other screen. You made it. Go back to cactus. And I'm right back at pink where I left off. And so I did this by making a segue. So I clicked on the button. I control dragged over there to make the segue. And I chose the push option for that. I made a IBAction for the other screen to dismiss the current view so I can dismiss this view and go back to it. And that makes it so this view dismisses itself and I can go back to that and I can load that right there. If I also go through and I click on this other screen right here, and I simply swipe down, it'll dismiss it manually that way as well. So it can support that as well. And you can do even more with that. If we click on the segue right here and I go to my attributes inspector, right here, you can see that it has an identifier. I can perform specific actions for this by identifying that segue itself. You can do even more advanced stuff with that. This is just a quick way you can use on how you can make a segue happen to go from one scene in an app to another and how you can dismiss that app. So we've learned a whole bunch of things of how we can actually work with doing stuff to practice for the iOS certification with Swift exams. I hope this is helpful and you understand more. Take a look at my other videos and have a great time. Cheers. See you next time. Bye-bye.